It seems like everybody loves to be served in practical ways, but not everybody loves to hear the truth about Jesus. For that reason, sharing the gospel isn't always easy. In fact, for some of us, it can seem downright impossible.
It's pointless, I give up.
But these two truths are absolutely crucial to the Christian life. First, Jesus commands his followers to share the gospel and make disciples. And second, what seems impossible for us is possible with God.
Oh, it's possible!
The good news we carry is critical for the health and well-being of the entire world. We're not supposed to hoard it or keep it to ourselves, and we're not just supposed to be generally nice people. We are supposed to share the good news about Jesus.
Why are you always trying to hide your light under a bushel?
So, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to be familiar with the story of Jesus as it's told by the scriptures. One helpful and kind of memorable way to think about it is by taking that story in a four-part structure. God created the world perfectly good.
It's so good here.
It's so good there.
Angels and humans rebelled against God and brought death and evil into God's world.
Evil has an interesting flavor.
But God had a rescue plan. He set it in motion with the calling of Abraham and the nation of Israel, and he accomplished the decisive victory in Jesus at the cross.
He's alive. He's alive!
And now, we who commit our lives to Jesus can be partners with him in restoring all creation. But we want to be careful not to share God's story as though it's something God did back then, totally irrelevant to us or the people we're sharing with. And one way to do that is to share our testimony about how God has impacted our lives and transformed us.
Changed my life.
It can be helpful to think about sharing our testimony in three key parts. First, we talk about our lives before we had a relationship with Jesus. Second, we talk about the commitment that we made to Jesus. And third, we talk about how our lives have changed since we got into a relationship with Jesus.
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
1 Peter 3:15 tells us that we should always be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks for the reason for the hope that is in us. And for a lot of us, that means that we're going to have to do some prep work. So we encourage everyone who's going through this rooted journey with us to actually write down your personal testimony and practice sharing it with others. One way to get that written down and to think about the structure of it is to look at the questions that are provided for each of those three key elements of your testimony in the rooted book. But here's a sampling in the video itself. Start with before. Remember, everyone's story is different, so for some people the before section is kind of important, and for other people like me who followed Jesus from a very early age, this part might be kind of short. Think about how you acted before you knew Jesus. Who were your friends? What were your priorities? What were your relationships like? The next section is commitment. And again, this is different for different people. For some, it's a single moment where you made that big commitment to Jesus and everything changed. For other people, it's a series of commitments made over a period of time, each going deeper than the last. Think about how you came to know Jesus. How did you come to terms with your sin and your need for God? What doubts did you struggle with? How did you invite Jesus into your life? Were you baptized? And finally, share about your life after meeting Jesus. What difference has he made? Think about how God's forgiveness has impacted you. How has following Jesus shaped your priorities, goals, dreams, relationships? Where do you see yourself as a part of God's work in the world? We encourage everyone to develop your testimony and refine it. Make it concise, make it clear. Share the key elements of your story so that you know you're never missing anything. And then, of course, be prepared to be bold when God leads you to share with someone who doesn't know him.
Tell the truth.
So now we have a sense of how we fit into God's big story and how to share that story with others. But what about the church? Where does the church fit into all of this, and why is it important? We'll wrap up our Rooted series by exploring just that. Enjoy the journey.